Midrash deals almost entirely with the question of whether it was fair that the sons of Aharon were killed just for bringing this Ish Zara. So the Midrash, interestingly enough, uses the vehicle of Ecclesiastes of Koheles to sort of lodge the complaint about the fairness of the punishment of the sons of Aharon. Because after all, Kohelet is full of seeming complaints. Depends how you read it. Seems like that Shlomo HaMelech is complaining about things not being fair. So he actually brings up the case of the sons of Aharon, and he says, why is it that in the rebellion of Korach against the leader of the Jewish people, against Moshe Rabbeinu, before the earth swallowed them up, there was also a fire that came out and struck people dead? How could you give the same punishment for that, insurrection as you did for the sons of Aharon? Secondly, later on in Jewish history, you have the Roman general Titus, who takes a prostitute into the Holy of Holies. He goes in and comes out unscathed. And yet here, the sons of Aharon just go in and do not come out alive. So what's fascinating about the question is, the question is the answer. Because the Midrash is really saying that we don't really understand God's criteria for meting out punishment. The cases that seemingly look alike are really vastly different, and we can't judge, we can't know, we can't understand all of God's criteria. It's almost like you could say, you read a news story about something that happened, you say, oh my gosh, how could that be? And weeks later, months later, could be years later, you find out the real backstory, that it wasn't really the way it was reported, and this didn't really happen, and they didn't really say that, and there was a completely different motive, and everything is not like it seems. And that's really, I think, what the Midrash is saying, that yes, you could take a superficial pass at things and say, this doesn't seem fair compared to that, but it's really a lack of understanding that we have, and the circumstances are completely different, and God's criteria are completely different. Also, the Midrash actually says that, Shlomo himself complained about what happened to him. There is both in the Midrash and the Talmud, it's interesting that he was actually removed from office temporarily and replaced by a look-alike angel. Why? Because he did horrendous sins that were targeted to him. The Torah says a Jewish king, is not allowed to have too many wives, too many horses, and too much gold and silver. And he violated all of those, to the point where Rav Soloveitchik said that the country was split in the time of his son, because the taxes were so high for these princesses that he had to build temples for each one. The taxes were so high, there was a tax revolt, and the country split into Yehuda and Israel, all because he didn't listen to the laws of the Torah that were targeted to him. And that brings up another point, and that is that we can't, at the end of the day, compare the sins of, say, what sounds unreasonable and unfair to you and I, to somebody who was on a high level like the sons of Aharon, because God judges more strictly people who are more righteous. That's why, it's why the king Shlomo was removed from his office. That's why, for example, Moshe hit the rock and he, seemingly didn't get into Eretz Yisrael because of that. And same with the sons of Aharon. This is, again, something not familiar perhaps to Western culture, where we give lip service to the fact that we want our leaders to be, moral, but they get away with a lot, but not so in the Torah. So to sum up, you have this idea that we don't understand the way God judges, we don't understand the circumstances, and there is a higher standard. And the Midrash does say that there was quite a bit of haughtiness. The sons of Aharon weren't married because no one was good enough for them. They were waiting for their father and their uncle Moshe and Aharon to die so they could take over. They stared at God's presence while eating, as opposed to Moses, who turned away when he saw when God revealed Himself at the burning bush. But all this you could also say, is not really the reason, because maybe our haughtiness is way more than their haughtiness. But again, at their level and who they were, there are higher expectations. Shabbat Shalom.